Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of The Ball is Round. I'm Hadi Raphael, and tonight on the show, CF Montreal present their new structure, roster, and staff moves. Right after, we'll go through with an interview with the armchair analyst Matt Doyle. And last but not least, we'll talk about the Canadian women's national team with the roster being unveiled. That and a lot more on episode 205 of The Ball is Round. And I'm joined tonight by my two good friends. We're back, all the three of us together, Elias Grigoriadis and Andy Coronado. Guys, how are you today?
We're the three best friends that I'm good. I'm good. I didn't know at the beginning of the week I was like, man, what are we gonna talk about this week? And today I just feel like there's so much to talk about.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. It's
Never
a
dull moment, man. Never a dull
moment. That's what we like. That's what we like. Elias. Hey, Barcelona.
They won 5-1. It's great.
What are you talking about?
They beat Tenerife 5-1.
Yeah, that's the women.
Oh, you mean the men's team? Nobody follows the men's team, man. I don't know what you're talking about. Nobody cares.
Are you talking about the men's team?
5-1. That's all we care about. The treble's still on, you know?
Yeah. And
I guess the men's team drew, but like, not that anyone will pay attention.
Who is that, Hadi?
My team, you know, the team that you don't know about, that you don't know anything about, right? Good. We have Robbie already here. Hey, Robbie. Hope everything's fine. We'll try to keep it under 2 hours. We swear. Try as much as we can. That's like the first thing that I hear from Robbie. Are you gonna be long? I'm like, no, we're not gonna be long. We're gonna stay between an hour and a half and 2 hours. This is what we try to do. Sometimes we're like 2-3 minutes over, but not more than that.
Listen, some of us need this to get away from our wives, okay?
Yeah, so we have also LP Habs fan saying can't wait for some of the conversations tonight. It's gonna be heated. It's gonna be heated. But you know what? Let's jump right into it. But first, before talking about the three subjects that I talked about a bit earlier, MLS Cup, guys. MLS Cup.
Yeah.
So we have today. We have a visitor here. Come say hi. My son is here.
Hello.
Say hi. Say hi.
Bonjour, bonjour.
Hello. Okay, now you can go. Bye. So we
go play.
He's like, okay.
That's not Matt Doyle, guys. That's
So let's talk about MLS Cup, guys. Semifinals for sure. We have Seattle that won against LAFC. We have all the rest. I'll let you jump. I'm gonna go see my son.
No stress.
I'll let you talk about it.
No stress. Elias, did you watch the game last night?
I did. And y'all, look, I told you guys, man. Red Bulls, they're the dark horses. This is their conference to lose, man. And I like them against Orlando too. I like that matchup. That midfield is so strong. We saw it again last night. You cannot play through them, and if they want to, they'll break you down in the middle of the park, as much at will. And I think it's going to be really tough for Orlando, who they have a lot of pace on the flanks, right? They love getting wide and then hurting you that way, which is going to be an interesting kind of battle because again, right, Red Bull's weakness is kind of their fullbacks. So I'm very curious to see who kind of takes the advantage. But yeah, I still think it's Red Bulls, man. They're just playing such good football, and momentum is everything, man. And clearly, this year the soccer gods do not care about your ranking. So bring it on.
You're right. I mean, look, yesterday is similar to what you're saying. Yesterday to me, the whole year has been like, who's Seattle and what are they doing, right? And last night I actually stayed up till like, I don't know, 1:30 in the morning until that game finished against LA. And Seattle's different, man. Seattle come playoff time. Whoa, watch out! Jordan Morris is a hell of a player. So extremely, very, very, for after having witnessed CF Montreal giving I don't know how many goals this season, 96. You see such a defensive stronghold of Seattle playing just such good defense against such a potent LA team. I did not watch the game today. I was busy, but you said the Orlando.
Atlanta?
Oh, yeah, Atlanta maybe. Yeah,
it's a Cinderella story, right? You know,
would be nice.
It runs out of gas, especially on the road. It's a lot of traveling. It's understandable. The real interesting thing, and I was kind of watching it with one eye while I was preparing for the pod, and you know when we just started, and Patrick's talking about it too. This LA versus Minnesota game is crazy. It's halftime now. It's 3-2 for the Galaxy. I love it. This is what playoffs are all about, man. You know, up 1-0, down 3-1. It's 3-2 now with a 49 like 45 plus 4 penalty. We're like, this is playoffs.
Yeah, it really has come down to the wire. You know, we had the 3 games in the first round, and now it's just one and go home. And honestly, these games have not failed to impress. They're very, very good games, and you know, I don't know. Like
Are you starting to drink the Red Bull Kool-Aid, man? Are you starting to believe?
Hey, they're very good. The Red Bulls
They're
are
good,
very,
man. They look so good. And remember, they were all world at the beginning of the season until the injury bug hit them. So they stay fit, and with this kind of momentum, I think they could take Orlando. Yeah. I think they can kind of overpower Orlando, and it's all about who, you know, instills their way of playing over the game. Whoever kind of, you know, if Orlando want to make it a fast-paced shootout, they're going to win. If Red Bull keep the game narrow and compact, they're going to win. So it really just depends on who gets to exert their authority over the game. I think it's going to be Red Bull, though, man. They control the game so well.
Yeah. I mean,
New
look,
York couldn't do anything.
I really like the way they played New York, but in all honesty, it's just I really like the way Seattle played defenses, and in my opinion, defenses win championships in every sport.
We agree. How do you?
Yeah.
Are you on the Red Bulls hype train?
I am on the Red Bull hype train, but you know what? I feel that Galaxy, like nobody can beat them. I
don't know if you're watching the game before, but it's 3-2.
It was 3-1. It was 3-1. Okay, I didn't watch the 3-2. Okay.
Yeah, Minnesota got a last-minute penalty.
Yeah. Okay. But you know what? I think that the Galaxy, you know, I watched their squad. They're so, like, they have so much talent. Even on the bench, they have some MLS experience, and I think it's going to be very hard to beat them. Now, of course, you can never rule out Seattle, because Seattle, they have that culture of winning. So it's going to be fun. I think it's a fun year for MLS Cup. It's a lot of surprises, a lot of good stuff. I don't believe it's going to be the winner will be from the East. Pretty sure the winner is going to be from the West. So we'll see.
Red Bulls are so
I don't know. We'll see. I know Red Bulls are good. Yeah, and you have I love Emil Forsberg. I've always loved him.
But like Vanzier. Well, they playing together. They're like they share one brain.
Huh?
Guys, the level that you see of the playoffs now, we're allowed to dream, right? We're allowed to. Would CF Montreal have been able to beat these opponents the way you see them play? Like, say, Orlando.
Montreal did beat Orlando on the road. Like, this happened, right? So I'm not saying they would have, but it's not.
The quality was there.
It's not.
The quality was there.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to say.
We're allowed to dream. Sorry, go on.
Okay, so let's move on. CF Montreal. A lot to say about CF Montreal. A lot of announcements that came like one after the other. A lot of surprises, one after the other. So we'll start first with the new sporting structure. So I'm gonna read a bit of the communique that was sent. So first of all, they said CF Montreal unveiled on Thursday its new sporting structure, emphasizing teamwork and enhanced analytics. This structure incorporates complementary expertise, particularly leveraging its synergy with Italian Serie A club Bologna FC 1909. Luca Saputo has been named Managing Director, Recruitment and Sporting Methodology. He will serve as the primary liaison with Bologna FC. Among his responsibilities, Luca Saputo will maximize the sporting synergy between both clubs. He will also be responsible for the sporting methodology, performance, and recruitment, notably by working alongside Raffaele Frasetti, who has been named head of scouting. Next, Simone Saputo has been named Managing Director, Academy Strategy and Roster Management. He will be in charge of the global strategy of CF Montreal Academy and will notably monitor players on loan. He will collaborate closely with Academy Director Marinos Papageorgopoulos. Simone Saputo will also contribute to the management of the squad, the salary cap, and the first team budget. Initially brought on as a consultant on July 9th, Corey Ray will now take on the role of Director of Soccer. He will support President and CEO Gabriel Gervais, who continues to oversee the club's sporting activities along with Luca and Simone Saputo to implement the first team roster strategy. Ray will act as the primary contact with MLS club and player agents, while also being the CF Montreal team representative with the league. Additionally, he will be the head of club's analytic department, as well as the operations staff and medical personnel. He will be assisted by Daniel Pozzi, who has been named Director of Soccer Operations and Roster Compliance. So, guys, a lot to say, a lot of
big
fla
words.
fla, a lot of fla fla and big words, a lot of things that are being said and not said. So what do you make of it, Andy? Like when you look at that, do you have a clear picture of what the organigram is?
So one thing, Hattie, while you were reading that whole thing, LA scored another goal.
It's 4-2 now.
Yeah, it's 4-2.
That's one thing. Another thing. When I'm reading the thing, because first of all, as you said, it was news after news after news one day, and all of a sudden, I did like a double take on my phone, and I was like, "What is happening right now?" I really need to sit down and break it down. So it wasn't very clear to me when I was reading it, but when I did my like little charts that I was hoping would make sense to me, it made a little bit more sense how they organized it into like almost like departments. Like this department does this, and then they all take care of their little thing. Some of them work together with each other, and then there's one final decision. And the way it seems to me is that Gabriel Gervais receives the reports of all these departments, and based on this, they make a decision. So it looks like they're trying a more of a collective approach to signings, be it by the academy or outside of MLS or in Europe. But they're really dividing it by departments, so there's more accountability. So that's the way I understand it when they announce it. Like they really broke it down instead of being like everything's on Olivier Renard, everything's on Olivier Renard. He's the one making all the decisions, academy outside MLS, and then Vasili's the one that does the money, right? It's a lot more like departments, the way I understood it.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's why that's what Gabriel Gervais told us. At the end of year presser, saying we're a team. It's going to be a team effort. It's not going to be, it's mostly going to be, a lot of people working together. But now, Elias, does it seem clearer to you or a bit more confusing than it was before?
It's definitely not clear. They definitely didn't shed any light on anything. We have a better sense of the hierarchy that exists within the club, and Andy actually went to the trouble of making us a little hierarchy here. Gabriel Gervais up top, and then you have Luca Saputo, Simone Saputo, and Corey Ray in charge of their own departments, and Laurent Courtois as the coach, doing his own thing. You can find that on Andy's Twitter. Really cool tool to kind of understand, because when shit hits the fan during the season, you want to know who to get mad at. Go pull up the graph and then find out who you want to get mad at. But in terms of clarity, we have a better sense of where things stand, but I didn't get the sense that there's any news per se, because we all these people, we are all aware that they were already in some capacity involved in the sporting.
Yeah.
So clarity maybe in terms of titles and who answers to who, but clarity in terms of with whom the buck stops with is still Gabriel Gervais. And he's still going to be the one that's accountable to the media, to the fans, to the board. So in terms of clarity or anything new, not really. It's just now we have now we put names to people. That's it. Not like titles to people's names. That's it.
To me, it's clear. It's just I don't know if it's sustainable for in the long run. A model like this with the Saputos.
I feel that I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if I agree with you, Andy, but in a way, I feel that Gabriel Gervais is a scapegoat.
Yeah.
He's the one that's going to support all the pressure.
Just like Olivier Renard was.
Just like Olivier Renard was for roster decisions, but that's it. Now Gabriel Gervais is the scapegoat for everything relating to the club. All aspects. And good for him if he's able to withstand this kind of pressure. But I don't know. I feel that it's a bit too much for one person. Now, at the same time, I feel that this is his mandate. This is what Joey Saputo wants from him, because he doesn't want to put his two kids right now as the front people, because it's a bit too much pressure for now. Maybe until they're more experienced, then they will take that role later on. But right now, I feel that it's a way of protecting Luca Saputo and Simone Saputo. I don't know if you agree with that, Andy.
Well, what I was going to say is what really stands out to me, because Gabriel Gervais in his press conferences has moments where he's really honest, like really seems to speak from the bottom of his heart, while other moments he sounds scripted, like he's been studying that. And what he said in his first press conference when he came out, somebody asked him, is it your intention to do this permanently, this position? And he clearly said, no, I have no ambition to do this at all. This is very temporary to me. Yeah. And the way he came out was very much like, this is going to be the way we're going to go forward. It's not a temporary thing. I've been placed in this decision-making role. So to me, it's like he contradicted himself from the first time he spoke to now, where he's saying, I'm the guy making the sporting decisions. And he never had that aspiration. So
but he's not the guy anymore that takes the sporting direct decisions. He's just the one that's presenting the sporting direct decisions. And that's why he said, if you look at the description of each one of the roles, we know exactly who's taking the decisions. Like, and I feel that it's LP Habs fan that said it. Saputo's at the top, everyone else underneath. And you know what? Let's say it like it is. I'm sorry. Let's say it like it is. Look at Saputo.
Saputo's not accountable though, right?
They're not accountable, but that's why I talked about
Luca and Simone are accountable, but
yeah,
Joey is not accountable to anybody, right? He's not accountable to the media, to the fans. He's doing his own thing, right? Gervais is his envoy.
And that's okay. Yeah, Gervais is it, but even it's more than that. For me, the people at the top are Luca and Simone. And to be more precise, it's going to be Luca. Because
you think they're ahead of Gervais?
Oh, 100%.
Elias, pull up the chart, because pull up that chart again.
You think that this is just appeasement?
It's a smoke screen. Yeah, it's a smoke screen.
Yeah. Because what it says in responsibilities for Gabriel Gervais, it says oversee sporting activities with Luca and Simone Saputo to implement the first team roster strategy. So, exactly. But then they report to him, but then he's supposed to do it with them. So it's so weird. And it's like, okay, so like you said, Hari, who's at the top? Is it really him?
But I think he's the one that's going to be the one presenting. So he's going to be, as I said, the scapegoat, the guy that's going to be in front of cameras. But at the end of the day, if you look at what's written, Luca Saputo is going to be the one that oversees the sporting methodology and the liaison between Bologna FC and CF Montreal. And when Gabriel Gervais talks about the future of CF Montreal, he talks about a synergy with the Italian Serie A club, Bologna FC. So the whole project is about the synergy of Bologna and CF Montreal. And who takes care of that? It's Lucas Saputo.
Yeah.
So, that's the first thing. The second thing also, he's the boss of Raffaele Frasetti, the head of scouting. So that's also something else about rosters. And you have Simone Saputo that's the liaison between the academy, and it's going to be a bit of the Vasily Kremenzides in that role, making sure that the salary cap and the first team budget. And Corey Ray is the agenda guy, the one that has all the contacts within the MLS, and that's going to help them make the contacts. So I'll let you discuss that. My son is calling me, and I'm alone with him today, so sorry about that.
All good, no stress. Go ahead. Yeah, I mean, Elias, in your opinion, like, we talked about Gabriel Gervais being the scapegoat, but at the end of the day, like, I think one of our listeners posted the question: it's who's the first one to get fired if something goes wrong? Where you said we still don't, like, the buck stops with Gabriel Gervais, but once he gets fired, does it fix anything, or does he get replaced? Do we do a whole completely new sporting structure? What's the next step if everything goes wrong with this structure?
This whole project was initially sold to us as Olivier Renard coming in. This project of developing young talent and grooming them to succeed in MLS and in Europe was sold to us as, Olivier Renard spearheading this. And when Olivier Renard left, Gabriel Gervais said it wasn't just his project, it was our project. I was involved in it, and it was a tandem thing. If he leaves now, whose project was it really? So if Gabriel Gervais leaves, the deeper questions that I care about is not, whether or not this was success. It's what comes next, because we've had situations where we've seen them bring in new coaches, and you kind of have to build from the ground up from a coaching perspective, and that's fine. But when you have to tear out everything root and stem and almost tear everything down to the foundation and then start rebuilding, I don't think people have the patience for that. Because this was sold to them as, we're going to develop good young talent, and then the homegrown talent on top of that. And then you have 2022, which was such a success. And then you have 2 seasons where one, you miss the playoff, one, you lose a play-in game. God forbid Montreal misses the playoffs again, or next year is a wash, right? It doesn't work. The signings aren't doing the same thing that they were doing at the end of the season. The new signings for everyone that left is not replicating what was expected of them. Injuries, whatever, you name it, right? 1,001 things can go wrong. And they miss the playoffs again, or they only win the play-in again. Laurent Courtois' job is in jeopardy. But at the same time, this is also Gabriel Gervais' job we're talking about now, because they tore up everything post-Nancy. The team that Wilfried Nancy left with versus the team now is complete. The only people left are Waterman and Piet. That's it, right? So not only will Head start to roll, but we completely
can't forget about Breza.
And left and came back. But now the question is, how do you ever win back the community and the fan base when you toy with them again and again and again, right? This isn't the Canadians where you've been rebuilding for 4 years and the fans have unlimited patience because you're an institution.
Yeah.
Soccer is still growing in Canada, and we'll get to Ketterer, but
we'll get to
my heart is still heavy about that. But the Montreal Canadiens are an institution. The CF Montreal is on their way there, and soccer in Canada is growing, but they don't have the same leeway that the Canadians do, right? You can't be bang average to mediocre for 4 or 5 years and still expect to even have half a house.
So who do you let go? Who do you fire? Because they built this system saying there's going to be more accountability. We're gonna the decisions we make are going to be well informed with statistics. They even put a posting right I didn't put it in my chart, but they announced it in a press conference that there's an opening for data analyst. I believe they said in French, but I believe it's for data analyst because we already have a head of scouting or performance analyst, one of the others, because we have Lewin that does something there. I forgot what it is.
Luan,
yeah, but I forgot whether he's a data analyst or a performance analyst. But anyways, they're hiring a few positions to to get more information on the player and base their signings on that. So Heidi, my question for you is, as I asked Elias, is what is it that if everything goes to shit, 2025, 2026, whatever it is, however, whatever time limit they've placed themselves for this project, this structure, who's the first one to go? Who do we start from zero yet again? And or
you know what? Okay, there's something that really bothers me. Okay, guys, it's normal to start from zero from time to time. This is a club. It's like it's very rare the clubs that stay on top. So like, you know, starting from zero is not a problem. I don't think it's a problem. But to answer your question, the scapegoat, as I said since the beginning, is Gabriel Gervais. If things don't work out, it's gonna be Gabriel Gervais that will not be here anymore, and Corey Ray.
Yeah.
So those are, of course, they're untouchable, guys. And you know what? It's okay. They're the owners. You know, at the end of the day, they're the owners. They cannot remove themselves. And that's completely understandable. And people are blaming Joey for doing stuff, but at the end of the day, it's his club. So it's normal. Like if you guys have an enterprise, you have a company, at one point you want to give it to your children. That's like completely normal. Like for me, there's no questions there. It's okay. What I don't like is to see what happened with Olivier Renard, to see what's happening right now. You know what? Just say it. Just give them the accountability and tell them, you know what? You are the ones that are doing that from now on. So you should take the responsibility of doing that. Now, as a father, for sure, you want to protect your children as much as you can. But at one point, you need to let them know that you are accountable, as you guys said. So no, for me, like it's clear. You know, the scapegoat is Gabriel Gervais. It's as simple as that. But again, it's very normal. It's very normal. We have quite a few questions here. We're going to answer the questions before we move on. We're going to talk a bit more about those roles. I think it's very, very interesting. So the first question that we have is from LP Habs fan. Topic to dive into if you want more deeply. Has the Bologna synergy been good for CF Montreal so far? Can it be in the future with differences between MLS versus Serie A needs? Elias?
Not really. Like they've had some good players come over. I mean, Gabriel Gobo came into the ecosystem because of Bologna. You know, shout out Louis Binks, right? Montreal legend. But I mean, when you look at cold hard facts in terms of impact, pun intended, yeah. You can't really say that it's been a rousing success, right? I think that there have been some really interesting players and some really good players, obviously, that have come here, but to what end, right? Has it won you a Canadian championship? Maybe, but like that's the most it's gotten you. It hasn't gotten you an MLS Cup. It hasn't gotten you a supporter shield. It hasn't got you anything like that. Not the Bologna. So I think it's a good thing to an extent, but relying entirely on that is definitely not the way forward.
Yeah, I agree, but at the same time, I think we didn't really capitalize on that synergy like the right way, you know. And you know, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get a lot of tomatoes on my way, you know, people booing me and stuff. But Bologna has a lot of scouts. They can do a lot of scouting all over the world. And that's something that we can take. We can take from that. We can gain things from that. And they can do two jobs instead of doing one. Because right now, and that's to answer the question for LP Habs fan, they're not able to scout. They're not going to need to scout the same players for Bologna and for CF Montreal. It's going to be different sets of players. You're going to have players that are going to be scouted for CF Montreal and players that are going to be scouted for Bologna. This is the way it's going to happen. Because let's say you go and you watch a game of Segunda Division in Spain, where you watch, let's say, I don't know, man, two teams whoever they are, Real Oviedo and whatever it is, they're watching the game because there's a young buck there that's really good and that has a great potential and that could be the next big thing for Bologna. Okay? At the same time, they're watching that game and they see a player that's like 27, 28 that's been having a great game. And then they watch him all over again, the second game, a third game, a fourth game. It's not expensive for them because they're just from Italy to Spain. It's not much, right? And at that point, they can use that and they can send this resume to CF Montreal higher ups saying, you know what, there's this player. He might be able to help you out, guys. This is the way the synergy needs to be used and this is the potential of that synergy. Now, I agree with you guys. It hasn't been good for now. As of right now, like if you look at the plus and minuses, yes, there are some pluses, but there's a lot more minuses than pluses, right? Like we saw the Bulldoors, the all those players that came from that synergy, and there were, Grumpy saying talking about Bulldoor. Hey, Grumpy, by the way. So for me, there's something to gain from that synergy, but we need to use it the right way and efficiently. Andy, I want you also to answer this. A few comments. Ultimately, of the three, which one is the most likely to ever get fired? Do you agree that it is Gabriel Gervais?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll ask you another question from our friend. Sorry, I was looking for the question. Where is it?
Well, you look for it.
This one.
Okay. How can you expect the person to be held accountable when they share the name of the owner and we were put in those positions with zero credentials? Like you said, Hadi, right? It would be in the family business. Is the same thing, right? If you see the son of the owner messing up, it could be a sandwich spot, right? And the son doesn't know how to make a sub. I mean, they're not gonna scold them as they would do a regular employee. They're gonna be like, "Come on, let's go do the family way," right? So, yeah, it's we can't expect that. They'll probably be if ever it does fail, they'll probably be restructuring around them because they're untouchable and they do nothing wrong in their dad's eyes, probably. But one thing I did want to point out about the Bologna synergy, what you guys were talking about the question earlier, is that the reason why I don't think it's been working the past few years is because Bologna doesn't see CF Montreal the same way CF Montreal sees Bologna. Bologna sees CF Montreal, the players at least that they've sent, they don't see them as potential growth. They see them as players that are just crap. Then they were waste to them. They're lower than lower. So the players they've been sending our way have not been with the vision of it at some point becoming something. And that's what's wrong, because CF Montreal has been forced in a way to accept that. And hopefully when they say that to improve that synergy, it really means that Bologna can start taking this club, the sister club, seriously. We'll see what happens. We'll see if they actually give us a legitimate good player, like they claim that they did with Tom Pierce and David Bugaj. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I have a couple of more questions before we dive into the rest. I love this comment from Patrick. I have to believe that Joey will give his kids the funds to succeed. Easier for them to ask for more money than it would be for Gervais or Renard. Elias, at what point, I see something there. You're the son. They're the sons of the owner.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, as you guys said, at one point, they will be accountable. And don't you think that they could be the answer to us getting more funds?
I mean, God, father-son dynamic is a whole bag of cats we don't want to get into right now, because that we can talk about for forever. But I mean, I don't know enough about their actual relationship to maybe speculate on that. All I know is for a fact is, Olivier Renard, when he left and he spoke to the media, made it pretty clear that with this, and this, we can improve the club. So it's very clear that it doesn't matter who asks from a business perspective. That's not going to happen. Now, from an emotional, familial connection, could that be different? Maybe. I'm not holding my breath because Joey Saputo's been in this business for over 30 years now, and
but he spent money. At one point, he spent a lot of money.
Oh, right? I'm not saying he hasn't spent money before. I'm talking about right now, right? So it'll take very little from a business perspective to move him to spend more money on something that he has set his mind on. Because for the last 4 or 5 years, that's what you're getting. You're getting what I give you, and nothing, not a penny more.
But if the Saputo kids can convince their dad to give them more money, don't you guys think? Don't you guys think? Okay, but don't you guys think like Hadi? Don't you think that Joseph Martinez will get the money he wants if they can convince their dad to give more money?
I think you probably asked for like $2 million, and I just think
I think we'll get to the topic, but
we'll get to this topic a bit later.
Okay.
I feel that you need more than Joseph Martinez to convince the dad. That's my opinion.
Okay.
I think you need to make sure of the impact that you're going to have if you're going to ask for more money. And maybe, again, there's like 1%, 5%, maybe the kids will be able to convince their dad a bit more than any other stranger, right? And no, I don't agree with you, Grumpy. It's not a Kool-Aid. It's normal to ask the question. We're just asking the questions and talking about it. We don't think that's going to happen. Elias said it. I said it. Andy said it. We don't think it's going to happen. But at that point, if it doesn't happen with his kids, it's never going to happen.
That's true.
It's as simple
as that. Stop complaining.
Exactly.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
That's how Joey convinces us.
Kids, this is it, But let's talk about the role, first of all, of Corey Ray. Okay. Mm-hmm. So right now he's not a consultant anymore. He's an employee of the club. And I want to put myself in the shoes of Corey Ray. Okay. I come from the Columbus Crew and I've done so many things. I was the one that was directing everything. And now I come in a role that's, in my opinion, very undermining role. What do you think, Andy? Don't you feel that he's getting the shorter end of the stick?
I mean, look, the way Corey Ray has always operated, it seems ever since Toronto, it seems like he's always wanted to work in the background. Like he hasn't wanted the spotlight. I think the position that they've placed him in, that he represents the club amongst the league. He contacts the agents. He also makes sure of the compliance of the budget. Look, if it's anything, we just have the information that Gabriel Javet gave us, and if it's anything that he says about it's a situation that benefits both parties, it's maybe what Corey Ray wants, to be that guy in the background, and he's okay with it. Unless he has other ambitions, I'm sure he would have probably been gone as a consultant, but he seems to be okay with it. We haven't been able to interview him. He's not giving any public interviews even back in Columbus, he gave very little to no interviews because I did a little bit of research on him. And there's not much to know about him. So it really seems like he likes it that way, And can we really point fingers at him if anything goes wrong? Since he's so much in the background, I don't know.
No. Again, the only guy that we're going to be able to point fingers at is going to be Gabriel Javet, because it's such a blur right now that you don't know who's doing what. The only thing that you know is the person that comes in front of the camera and answers the questions, and that's Gabriel Javet, which is, I hope he got a big raise because he deserves it.
Probably.
So this is my interpretation of the whole thing. Now, we talked about the structure. I think we said everything that we need to say about the structure. But let's talk about the rest of the decisions, because there were a lot of decisions. So I'm going to break it down for you guys. We'll talk about first the contract extension for Joel Waterman, who signed an extension for 2025, 2026, and 2027. with an option year for the 2028 season. At the same time, logically, the club has announced exercising the contract options on Nathan Saliba and Jules-Anthony Vilsan for only the 2025 season. So what do you think about those two decisions, Andy? First of all, Joel Waterman getting that long contract extension, which I think says it all by how much he's appreciated and how much they see potential in him. Again, and his leadership has been proven in a way, right, Andy?
Yeah, I think he encompasses a lot of what CF Montreal wants from their player. He's very flexible as far as positions. He can play even midfield, defensive midfielder. He's a leader of the back line, and also Laurent Courtois, if rumors are true, which they seem to be, almost named him captain at the beginning of the season. He's a national team player. I don't want to say regular because I can't title him regular yet, but he does play for the national team. And he's not old either, but he is a captain. So yes, I think that encompasses. I think it's a very good decision, and I don't know if they got a discount because he's so comfortable here in Montreal. I don't know. But as far as the other decisions of Nathan Saliba, I think everybody expected that because I think we can still sell that. Like his value will only increase if we keep him here for a bit. Be very honest with you guys, I'm not completely convinced about the Joel-Anthony Vilsan decision. I know he's young and he's full of potential. I know that, but he hasn't given me much this season, at least the little we saw of him to be convinced of that he's worth keeping around and being patient. Maybe I'm blind to it. Maybe obviously they see their stuff, they see to it. And maybe he's not too expensive either. So why not?
Makes less than $100,000 a year.
Yeah. So it's a low risk, high reward kind of deal. So
what do you think, Elias?
Oh, I think there's no risk whatsoever for Jonathan Vilsan. Right? I mean, even if you do get like 10, 15 games out of him as a sub off the bench, you're going to get decent output. And again, he costs $96,000. I just checked; it costs $96,000 a year. So it's not like it's a player that costs $300,000-$400,000. You're like, okay, if I can't get 15 games out of you, I'm losing money here. So I don't see a problem with that at all. He is still young, and he has shown good things. Maybe with this new, we'll talk about the new staff, but maybe with this new, physical preparation staff and trainers that they can find what's wrong with him, or maybe find a way to keep him more consistent, because I don't hate that. But yeah, I mean, you guys said it all with Joel Waterman and Nathan Saliba. I think that there's nothing more to add. Jean you're saying is just like Andy said, no risk, high reward.
You know what? There's something, and I'm surprised that you haven't said it, Elias. For me, everything is like, I completely agree the decision for Joel Waterman, and for me, that's a great decision. I know a lot of people don't like Joel Waterman. I really love him, even if he didn't have a great season this year. I really love his attitude. I feel that in the locker room, he's a very important guy. I feel that whenever there's bad games, we always talk about Samuel Piet, always the first one to go in front of the media, but Joel Waterman too.
Yep.
He's always there,
Especially after some really tough losses.
5-0
exactly.
At home, he was there.
Exactly. He was there. So I feel this is something that we take for granted, but that's very hard to have. So that's the first thing. And also he's Canadian, which is really great. He's part of the Canadian men's national team. So it's not only us that see potential in him. Jesse March has seen potential in him, and he even gave him a start in front of against Suriname in the first game. So there's potential in this guy still, even at 28. That's important, and I feel that it's a very good decision. But the thing that really strikes me a bit is Nathan Saliba. How come we didn't get a contract extension for Nathan Saliba? Because right now, there's a big, big, big risk.
Yeah.
The big risk is that he can go to Europe for nothing. And that's a big problem for me. That's a huge problem for me. So maybe Nathan Saliba doesn't want to sign a contract extension because he wants to keep his options open, which could be like very logical because, if you want to go to Europe, the European clubs are going to take a chance on a Canadian kid only if he's cheap, right? So the cheaper he is, the better chances he has of getting a look at. So that's a possibility. We don't know about that if it's Nathan Saliba that doesn't want an extension or not. But I don't know. I feel that
it's a win-win for Saliba. It's a win-win for Saliba.
For Saliba, but not for the club.
Because if he stays, he's going to extend his contract and he's going to get a massive raise, more than what he would have gotten this year. And if he leaves, like you said, right, teams are more likely to want him because he's probably going to be a bargain. So
yeah. I don't know. I'm a bit afraid of what's going to happen for Nathan Saliba. By the way, it's 5-2 now for the Galaxy. So
and a red card.
And then LP said, remember, Javier doesn't believe that a player's contract impacts their resale value, so they'll probably sell him next summer window and not get a lot unless he pulls a Kone. Yeah. So we'll see. I don't know what's going to happen next year. I don't want to be super negative. I just want to point out that this is a decision that I don't understand. Maybe they're still negotiating. Maybe they're trying to get players first in and then see how much money they have left under the salary cap to offer him a contract extension. Maybe Nathan Saliba said, you know what? I want to see who you're bringing in before taking a decision. There's a lot of things, a lot of options that could have happened for that. So moving on with the rest of the decisions. And that was, I think, all the players that are departing the club. I don't think we were very surprised. There's only maybe a couple of players where we were a bit surprised. In my opinion, I was surprised for a couple of players. So the club will not exercise the contract options for Gabriele Corbo, Grayson Duty, Raheem Edwards, Elias Iliadis, Lassi Lapalainen, Joseph Martinez, Matteo Scavioni, Robert Tarkelson, and Rida Zuhir. The club is still negotiating with Ousmane Jabang, and the contract of Victor Wanyama and Logan Ketterer expire at the end of the season, as well as the loan of Joaquin Sosa.
Heartbreaking last sentence. Heartbreaking.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just kidding. No more Victor Wanyama. No, look, if you're asking my opinion, the only one I was surprised with that they didn't give him a fair shot was Matteo Giovanni. He didn't even get minutes at Forge, so that we get a really good sample size of what he can do. He came with a lot of hype. He's one of those former, kids with potential that went to Europe and it didn't really work out, and then he came back here and it didn't work out again in CPL. So I don't know if that's enough for CF Montreal to say, if you can't earn some minutes on CPL, then what are we doing here, right? Like you need it's not worth the investments. I don't know if that's it. The other ones, the only one that I want back, and people have given me so much shit about this, is I want Lassi Lapalainen back, but I want him at a very cheap contract, super cheap contract, and he won't take it. I think he's so skilled, guys. I think he is so talented, and he is such a game changer. But I understand that he's injury prone and that he.
When have you seen this skill?
No, he has skills.
They're available. No. Prove it. No, I agree with you.
Every 5 games, he shows up.
15.
Hey, you know what? You're getting a lot of no from people, So, you know what? One second. You know what, Andy? I can see your point about him being skilled. I understand that. The only problem that I think, for me, if he hasn't bloomed in 5 years, why will he bloom next year? So for me, he needs a change of scenery. He needs to go elsewhere, and maybe he's going to bloom elsewhere. But his time in Montreal is up. I don't care. The salary.
Being selfish.
It's just up. Now, I want to hear you guys on the rest of the players. Elias, I know you were a big fan of Gabriel Corbo, but we weren't really surprised because he did say goodbye on Instagram. We saw a lot of things. We knew he wasn't going to come back. But anybody else that really surprises you? Joseph Martinez, we heard, and we all knew that he wasn't going to come back, even if we're dreaming a bit. Not really surprised about that. But any other surprises for you?
Raheem Edwards did come as a bit of a surprise, honestly, for me.
I agree.
If for no other reason, because an option year for a guy who did really good work, even if it's his turn to be the backup, I don't hate it. I don't hate that. But I mean, if this is, and I was talking about it on Twitter a bit during the week, if this is a Juan type situation where they have identified a young, promising left back that can work in tandem with Tom Pierce, a la Jaquil Marshall-Rudy, then I'm all for it, because I understand that this is the best you're going to get out of Raheem Edwards, right? There's no next level for him. That is, and it was good. It was. Let's not. I'm not disparaging Raheem Edwards. I'm not sticking my nose up at the work he did. He was one of the most consistent people for 2/3 of the season. But if you do have the opportunity to get essentially the same profile, the same output, but they're like 7 or 8 or 9 years younger, and they have that much higher a ceiling, kind of like Jaquil Marshall-Rudy versus Juan, then it's a no-brainer, because now you do have Tom Pierce, who, let's face it, defensive liability notwithstanding, the best delivery on the team. And the second he came on the field as a sub, instantly changed the game. And you partner him with this kind of engine that can play 60 minutes, 70 minutes, and on both sides of the ball be effective. I'm okay with that. But they have to have someone other than Tom Pierce. They have.
Yeah, I know. I don't see Tom Pierce as a starter. That's me. Maybe he was out of shape when he came in, but like I don't see him.
But like
But I don't see him really running back and forth, being so efficient offensively and defensively. And we read so many things on Tom Pierce, and all the former supporters of his former clubs used to say, defensively he's not good. And you know what? That scares me. If you're going to be a starting left wing back, for me, you need a bit more. So, in my opinion, don't forget, guys, left wing back is one of the hardest position to fill across the world in the world of soccer. It's usually either striker or left wing back. Those two positions are very hard to fill. To find talented players at those positions, it's very, very hard. So unless, I'm pretty sure we're going to have another project at this position, and I agree with you, Elias. For me, Raheem Edwards, Canadian international, even if he hasn't been called up for a while, but still he has been called up with the national team a couple of times. Yes, he's not great, and yes, there's mistakes, but the drive is there. Very good in the locker room. Doesn't make he doesn't really complain much. I felt
for
that
Toronto
he deserved.
Guys who loved Montreal too.
So. Exactly, I felt that he deserved an extension for maybe a year, unless, as you said, they already found someone that could bring something better than Raheem Edwards. And don't forget, he's Canadian, and Canadian. He doesn't take an international spot. He's, there's so much good around Raheem Edwards that we could have, played on. The rest, and we have a question from LPA Hatsman again that says, are you going to talk about their philosophy? Is the developing and selling young talent, yet they let go a bunch of their players. What happened here? Yet they let go a bunch of their players they were trying to develop. Honestly, guys, I feel that we need to understand the philosophy. I don't know if you guys want to. I'll explain it very, very quickly. When you have that philosophy, that doesn't mean that all the players that come out of the academy, you have to stick with them. You have to stick with them. You need to choose which ones are going to fit into the project. So it's normal that some of the players are not going to be renewed. And Olivier Renard said it quite a few times. You cannot cannot give a chance to everybody. Rita Zuhir, we talked about it quite a few times. It seems that there was a lot of problems outside of the pitch, extra.
Pat Bernier mentioned it too when he was on the show. Yeah,
exactly. So there's a problem with that. Scavoni, as we said a bit earlier, he didn't get a minute with Forge. How come he's going to stay with CF Montreal? Like, if not, it's not going to happen. And the rest of the player, Grayson Duty, not a lot happened with Grayson Duty. So, I love the fact that Ousmane Jabang is getting a look and getting, there's a discussion with him, because I think he was very, very good as a number 6, and we need as a number 6. I think we said it quite a few times that we need midfielders. I feel this is a great situation for CF Montreal. Anything you want to add, Andy, on this front?
No, I mean, look, it's I think you guys said it all. Just about the question that LP was asking, and it's gonna happen, unfortunately. I mean, and Gabriel Gervais said in his press conference the best. He's like, we tried what we could with Rita, and you could say the same thing about Balu Tabla. You could say about other Sean Rea. You tried what you could. You sent him on loan. It doesn't work a few times, and then at some point, maybe it works somewhere else. Maybe a change of scenery, whatever it is. I mean, as you know, those that love the team, love the city, are proud Quebecers or whatnot, you want to see your kids grow, all your kids become superstars, of the city. But it's 1 in a million, and unfortunately, we have to see a lot of them go.
And last but not least, again from LP Habs fan, but to counter your point, who now is left of the young guys that we're trying to develop who aren't already on the first team? I would invite you to go listen to our interview with Laurent Courtois, and he named quite a few players that they're looking at. So episode 200, great show.
And some youth national team call-ups too. Some youth national team call-ups.
Exactly. So there's a lot of talent within the academy that will be part of the final roster, in my opinion. This is going to be sick. Last but not least, guys, I'm going to tell you guys, there's two things, okay? Here are the players that are left with CF Montreal. Sébastien Breza, Jonathan Sirois, Fernando Alvarez, David Bugay, George Campbell, Jaquil Marshall-Rudy, Tom Pierce, Joel Waterman, Alessandro Bialo, Caden Clark, Bryce Duke, Dominic Yankov, Samuel Piet, and Matthias Kokaro, Mahala Opoku, Sunusi Ibrahim. You can add Nathan Saliba, Jules-Anthony Vilsan, for sure. And like, there's a lot of spots to fill. Elias, when you look at this kind of roster and the fact that we should have a 30-player roster, it's a lot of positions to fill.
Yeah. Look, you have like 6 million or 5 or 6 million in salary that just left the club. So even if you're not asking Joey for more money, you have a lot.
You have enough.
To play with. Not a lot. Definitely enough. Not a lot.
You have enough. I said enough.
Enough is the right word. I said a lot. Enough is a better word. You should be making do. I have no question, because a lot of those names that left were depth players or rotation players. There's 2 starters that left. That's it.
Bring back Lassie.
I'm gonna.
Oh man, stop it!
I'm gonna kick you off the screen.
Andy, question from Robbie for you: who will score the goals for us in 2025?
Joseph Martinez.
Sunusi.
Okay. Okay. I guess that's not true. Caden Clark then.
Okay. That's that could be.
Nobody believes me. Okay, cool.
Let's wait and see what's gonna happen. It's very hard to answer those questions right now because the roster is not complete. We can't wait to see what's gonna happen. Let's talk about staff, guys, because a lot of things happened with the staff too. They announced the departures of the first team coaching staff. Laurent Simon, gone. Romuald Pézère, gone. Luca Bucci, gone. And Barthélemy Delacroix, gone. Are you at all surprised, Andy? And who do you think didn't deserve to go?
I mean, look, we've been highly critical of all those positions that these coaches have coached. I wasn't surprised. The one I am surprised about is if Laurent Serment went, why didn't Sebrango go as well? Why did he stay? What did he do to merit to stay? That's what surprised me. If we're doing a whole revamp of the bench, unless he did something spectacular as a coaching them that we're not aware of. But beyond that, who didn't deserve? I don't know. I mean, I feel like Jonathan Sirois developed really well last year and kind of regressed this year. I don't know if that's to blame the goalkeeping coaches for, but we talked about a lot in this show that there was also the change of scheme that had to do with it. Yeah, that's my opinion on those that went.
Okay, I like this. Elias, I'll ask you another questions regarding that and maybe be a bit more precise. Don't you think that we're pressing the reset button and trying to get rid of all Olivier Renard's people? Because Laurent Serment, yes, he had history before, but he's Belgian. The goalkeeper coach, Romain Payzer, came with Olivier Renard. Barthélemy Delacroix also. Luca Bucci is a bit different. He came with the Bologna synergy. Do you feel that we're pressing a reset? And also at the same time, second question for you, the fact that Laurent Simon didn't travel with the team, is it hurting him right now? Did it hurt him?
Yes, to that question you just asked me. The larger question, I don't think it's an Olivier Renard thing.
I think it is.
I think it's you guys need to stop with the tinfoil hats, man. I swear to God. Not everything is a conspiracy. I think it's just a natural.
Oh wow.
I think
okay, you know what, Elias? I'm leaving. I'm gone.
I think it's more just a natural process of, I bringing in Laurent Courtois' guys, right? He has a coaching staff and he has
by kicking out Olivier Renard's guys.
Not necessarily.
No, by kicking out whoever it is. That's what he's saying.
I think that when you look at.
But Andy talked about Eduardo Sebrango. Eduardo Sebrango is the club's guy, right? So he's staying, right? The only people that are not staying are the people that were linked to Olivier Renard. Like, it's a bit of a big coincidence, right?
Yeah, but I don't think it was an Olivier. I don't think that was the requirement that you're leaving. I think there's probably other things at play. I think that, look, it was reported that Laurent Simon was interested in the coaching job, and I do feel like there was
without traveling with the team. Stuff.
No, but I do feel like there was some element of
coaching.
No, I meant last year, right?
Yeah, but like he's not traveling with the team, so how can he be the coach of the team, right?
I mean, if he would have gotten the job, I'm sure he would have traveled. That's not.
But start by traveling with the club
as an assistant
before, and then maybe you can get the job, right?
Look, I agree with you that if you're not traveling with the team,
I understand his personal reasons.
They're completely understandable, and I'm sure that he is more than good enough that he's going to find a position that will continue to allow him to operate that way. Because again, Laurent was an excellent assistant, but I don't think it was an Olivier Renard requirement that you're gone. I just think that Laurent Courtois is bringing in his own guys, and for the most part, that's not the inner circle in terms of coaching, quote unquote. But it's definitely people that are very closely linked with the head coach. So he wants people that are on the same wavelength. And there were reports all season, especially when it was going poorly, that the coaching staff was not buddy. Yeah. So if that's one of the things that Laurent Courtois says, next year, this is what I need, you have to, you're putting your faith in Courtois, you have to do what he wants.
So right now you have David Sauvry that he didn't know before, right? It's not his guy, right? But they're keeping him. Eduardo Sebrango, that wasn't his guy. And now he's going to have to bring other people and make sure that they get along with the people that are already in place, right? You know what? I'm going to tell you what I think is going to happen. I think we're going to get a lot of Italians from Bologna. That's what I think. And I think it's about the synergy between Bologna and CF Montreal. I think we're going to see a lot more of that. Not again, not that it's a bad thing, but I don't think it's going to be Laurent Courtois' guys. I might be wrong, but we'll see.
They said they're looking for a certain profile. That's what they said. A certain profile.
Yeah. Yeah, possibly. Wasn't he also in charge of defense, the same one that had near the bottom of goals against an entire league? Yes, exactly. That's another point. But again, I don't think it helped that the fact that he wasn't traveling with the team. For me, that's the biggest, tipping point, taking that decision, in my opinion. I think we talked a lot about the structure, about the roster moves. I think that was really, really interesting. I think it's time to talk about the elephant in the room, the great interview that we had with Matt Doyle, the armchair analyst. We thank, of course, Matt Doyle for giving us time. And great job to Andy, who's the one that really got us that interview. Very interesting. So we'll leave you with Matt Doyle right away. So we're thrilled tonight to be joined by none other than the armchair analyst, Matt Doyle. Hey, Matt, how are you today?
I'm doing well, boys. Thanks for having me on.
No, thank you very much for you to spare a bit of time for us. It's going to be hopefully an interesting discussion. I'm pretty sure it's going to be interesting. It's always interesting when you're here, so that's great. So for people that are living under a rock, so Matt Doyle, MLSsoccer.com, armchair analyst, and like a few other places too. Of course, we're not going to start talking about them all, but like everybody knows you, so that's great.
Yeah. I mean, the season pass is the big one right now, and we're starting to do some more YouTube stuff as well for the league, trying to spread our coverage as wide as possible to find the audience where they're at, meet people where they want to get information and coverage of the league, and it's fun. It gives us a chance to experiment a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely love reading and watching your stuff, in-depth analysis, and just great takes. If anybody gets a chance.
Gassing me up. I appreciate it. I'm going to come on all the time now. You guys are too nice.
Yeah, okay. So we're going to try to balance it a bit. We don't really agree all the time with you, but
Harry, not now.
Not now, later, right? Perfect. So let's start by talking about you a bit, Matt. So tell us a bit about your background. How did you come to be a writer for the MLS? Like, what's the story behind all this?
So I was a sports writer from the time I was 14 years old. It was my first job in high school. I went down to the local newspaper and I handed in some copy, and the sports editor was like, "That's pretty good." And he gave me a job as a stringer covering like high school soccer. And my dad would drive me to the games. And that's kind of how I ended up in this field. And I stuck with it throughout college. And then I moved to New York after college. And, I had a lot of freelance jobs and some part-time jobs. And eventually when MLSsoccer.com started 15 years ago, I was one of the first hires, and have managed to not get myself fired so far. So I guess it was kind of destiny.
Great. Now, of course, whenever we talk about, someone that's into the sport, that's a writer, that's a podcaster, that does, any kind of content, I'm pretty sure that person have watched soccer since he was born or she was born. So who's your favorite player of all time? All competitions and worldwide. One player. Who is it?
It's Xavi. It's Xavi. I mean, there are some other ones. Like my original favorite player was Valderrama, and getting to see him in MLS. And of course, as an American, I have a soft spot for Landon Donovan and Claudio Reyna as well. But it's Xavi. When I first saw Xavi play, I remember thinking, oh, that's how it's supposed to look. That's how the game is supposed to be played. And it's been, the past 10 years, like I've always had a soft spot for Barcelona because of that. And so to see Barcelona sort of go away from that for a long time, and then now finally bring it back this year with Pedri and Casado and even Dani Olmo, it's rekindling a little bit of the joy that I had lost from the game over the past decade upon Xavi's retirement.
Perfect. I'll jump in, Andy, and ask a third one. So you talk about your love for Barcelona. So I suppose that's your boyhood club, that club that you've always followed, or is there any other club?
So it's I don't have a favorite club per se. I've just always had a soft spot for teams that play what I consider to be aesthetically pleasing soccer. And Barcelona, first under Cruyff, and then obviously under Pep and Luis Enrique, they did that. Ironically, when Xavi was the manager, they did not. Like, they were not a particularly easy watch the past couple of years, but now with Hansi Flick back, I mean, it's never going to be tiki-taka. It's never going to be what it was 15 years ago when it was that great Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets midfield, and of course Messi, David Villa up top. It's not ever going to look exactly like that again, I think, but they've gotten back to a lot of the principles of that. So I have a huge appreciation for that, and any team that I think plays in a similar style with a similar ethos, I'm going to have a soft spot for. But what I don't do, because I think this is unfair to people who are actually fans of the club and actually live and die with the club, I don't say I'm a fan of that club. Because if Barcelona lose, it doesn't ruin my day. I don't really care that much. I'm just in it for the aesthetics. Whereas I know that there are some people who, if Barcelona lose, you're ready to throw yourself off a bridge.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, hey, this year's Bayern Munich, they're a lot of fun to watch too. So,
don't even talk to Harry about Marseille, Olympique Marseille, because he will go absolutely bananas.
Marseille. You can see it behind. You can see the there.
That's another podcast. We're not going to go there. So, Matt, talking about it, which European team plays the kind of soccer you like to see?
I mean, it's Barcelona, Bayern Munich. I think what Bayer Leverkusen have been under Xavi Alonso has been really something the past couple of years. I'm developing a soft spot for Southampton because they're trying to do it, but they're very bad.
It makes it that much better.
Yes, they're like, I appreciate it. It's like a Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner thing where it's like you're not, or like Charlie Brown in the football, like they're gonna pull it away every time, but like God, they keep trying, and I admire that.
That's awesome. Now taking it back to the MLS. So from you've been doing this for a very long time. Can you tell us what is the best game in MLS history, in your opinion, that you've been?
It's 2022 MLS Cup. When you consider the stakes and the quality of the two teams involved, that it was a great LAFC team, and it was a great Philadelphia Union team that was on an unbelievable heater. If you look back the second half of that season, they were just beating teams 4-0, 5-0 every single time out. And look, the first 60 minutes of that game were not great, but then we got another 60 minutes because it ended up going to overtime or extra time. And, Jack Elliott scored the latest goal in MLS Cup history, 120 minutes plus 4 of stoppage. And that didn't win it because Gareth Bale came up and headed one home 3 minutes later. It was just an absolutely bananas spectacle. Well, I'm not sure it was the highest level of game I've ever seen played in MLS, but in terms of entertainment value and stakes and talent on the field, it's tough. I don't think that there's another one that's really in the running.
Fair. Interesting. Yeah, great final. I completely agree. Now, you're an avid U.S. men's national team follower, supporter, analyst, as you should be, of course. But what do you think about the Canadian men's national team now? And my question for you, they're better than the U.S. now, right? Can you say that?
I mean, they've certainly been better than the U.S. in 2024. And it's really gratifying to see it because I think a lot of it has come via MLS academies or guys like Moise Bombito, who not an academy guy, but were developed into pros in MLS. And look, this is the dream, not just for US soccer, but for Canadian soccer as well, is to have that pipeline where you could take local kids and they could grow up watching their local team and parlay that into first team job. Your profession is to be a professional soccer player for your local team, and that then translates to the national team and making a dent first in CONCACAF and then Copa America and World Cup. It's fantastic. And, I know Jesse a little bit. I was fortunate enough to work with him 10 years ago when he came. He was between jobs, and during the 2014 World Cup, he was a guest analyst for us at MLSsoccer.com. He's one of the smartest people I've ever been around in my entire life. And I don't particularly love the way his teams play. I don't like that really aggressive smash bang Red Bull style, but it is undeniably effective. And when he gets buy-in, like it looks like he has from the Canadian national team, he can beat anybody. And so it's, I'm enjoying it. And when Canadian fans getting my mentions on Blue Sky, because I'm not on the other site anymore, and talk trash, it's like, go for it, man. It's like, it's well earned. Talk your smack.
Love it. Now let's go back to Montreal. We are a Montreal pod. A lot of questions regarding Montreal right now. It was said quite a few times by a few MLS pundits over the years that Nacho Piatti was the most underrated player in the MLS because he played in Montreal. Can you just explain why is that? Is it just the French culture? Why are we completely forgotten sometimes?
So I'm the wrong guy to ask that question of, because I'm so far in the bubble that I watch Montreal as much as I watch NYCFC, or as much as I watch Inter Miami or the LA Galaxy. So I think on a bigger sporting landscape, even this is unfair because I grew up a baseball fan, and I was a Mets fan, and I freaking hated the Expos. The Expos were all up in my face. So
we're gonna take that out.
But it's like, what I'm saying is, like, it wasn't out of sight, out of mind. I did think about it, and I was a Whalers fan, and I hated the Canadians so much. Like, you ruined my life when I was a kid. So it was I've never had that kind of like, oh,
curiosity.
He's underrated. Nobody thinks about him because he's in Montreal, because it's just like part of my job is to think about that. If it is true to any degree, it probably is because of the Francophone thing. It probably is because, Montreal seems like a foreign country to Americans in a way that Toronto and Vancouver do not. I don't know if that's fair. I don't know if it's accurate. And certainly, when I was a kid going to Whalers games, I didn't differentiate between Bruins fans and Canadiens fans. Like, I hated you all. So it was really
as simple as that.
You can feel it coming off the screen. Hated you all.
So it's like and Piatti was brilliant. I think I had him in my best 11 2 or 3 times in the middle of last decade. And I wish we could grab him as a 23-year-old and just plop him down in MLS again, because he's so much fun to watch.
Absolutely. Now we're going to talk a little bit about modern day CF Montreal. As you know, this year was Laurent Courtois' first season in Montreal. What would you say was your biggest takeaway from his first season, and what do you expect him to do next year?
So I think the biggest takeaway came at the end when I think he committed finally to sort of the new generation of players. And part of that was just getting the guys in, getting Shaquille Marshall ready and Caden Clark in, and getting Nathan Saliba into that lineup full time. And it's like, okay, this is a good identity for CF Montreal, because we all know you're not going to go out and spend $17 million on a player the way that Cincinnati just did, right? Like, it's just not the way this team has operated. And I'm of the opinion that there is more talent on MLS rosters than the typical person or even the typical coach thinks. And that a team that is shrewd about acquiring young talent that has maybe not been developed the way it could be, can build something that is consistently very good and even maybe excellent. And that's what guys like, Marshall Ruddy and Caden Clark in particular, those two represent, because they're super talented kids. And for whatever reason, neither has developed in a way that I think we had all hoped for over the past 5 years. And so the onus, and hopefully what we saw down the stretch, was Laurent Courtois taking the onus on himself to be that guy who could develop that individual player. And if you develop individual players or individual talents to the point that they become high-level players, that creates a sort of a virtuous cycle, because as they become better players, you can do better things collectively as a team. And I think we saw the seeds of that in that late run to make the playoffs. And then even in the second half against what was ultimately a disappointing wildcard game against Atlanta, but like that second half was really, really good. So I think that is the path forward. I hope it's the path forward. And if you can intersperse it with a couple of signings like a Piatti, then you're really starting to cook there. And if I was a Montreal fan, I would spend the offseason being optimistic that that's what's going to happen in 2025.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So he kind of set a standard for the fans, right? To hopefully next year grow off of that. So today is Monday. As of today, we have the CF Montreal still don't have a clear sporting director or technical director. There's no announcements that have come. We don't know when this is gonna, if this on Sunday is gonna air. We're gonna have an announcement, but as of today, we don't have one. So what does CF Montreal need from their next technical director, in your opinion?
Culture. There's a lot of stuff that you can think about: strategy and recruitment and the tactical choices, which I know was a big thing because we went from Nancy to Lasada and then to Courtois. So like the tactics were a big part of it, but more than anything else, the culture of a team matters. And that means we believe in developing young players. We believe in using our academy system. We believe in next man up, whether it's a guy that has been around for a while or a guy who you just brought in during the summer window. I think culture above and beyond, and obviously that means accountability for the coaching staff, but also for the front office staff and even for the ownership. That is, I mean, it's tough because you have to manage up while you're managing down as well. But the best teams in MLS and really the best teams in world soccer tend to have that culture. And it's not just a big budget thing. You could do it on a smallish budget. And whoever it is, and to be clear, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Corey Ray. Like that is the number one job.
Yeah, that's pretty logical that it's Corey Ray. But like last time we asked Gabriel Gervais, it was like, he was very
we don't know.
It was not really
he's
clear,
not gonna,
right?
He's not gonna tell you, but come on, like it's pretty clear.
What are we doing, right?
Hopefully it is. Hopefully it is. Now, how is Montreal development system perceived around the MLS? Decent placement in the national team, starting MLS spots for many of their projects, homegrown or otherwise. Like, how do you see that project? Yes, you did talk about them acquiring players from the MLS, but not spending much, having a very low salary budget and everything. How is it perceived?
I mean, before Wilfred Nancy, it wasn't thought of much at all, right? It was, I think maybe Balu Tabla was like the one even semi-success story before Nancy's years.
Before he disappeared.
Yeah. Seriously, I don't even want to know. But what's happened over the past 5 years is, like it's the Canadian version of FC Dallas or the Philadelphia Union, where it's clearly a hotbed of talent, and the culture of the club has been to get those local kids into the first team as quickly as possible. And that's how you end up with players like Ismail Kone or Nathan Saliba. And hopefully, there's like not everyone is going to be a success story.
Of course.
Rita Zahir, I remember watching this kid in preseason 2-3 years ago, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a $10 million player. And for whatever reason, it hasn't worked out yet. But the willingness to try and to continually push for those types of players, that is the perception of CF Montreal right now around the league. And if this team can win at a high level while doing that, I think it's a massive statement, not just for MLS, and not just for Canadian soccer, but for like the local culture of Montreal and Quebec. I think it would mean a lot.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Now, you have talked about the project of CF Montreal quite a lot since you joined us. Now, you did say that if Montreal spends a bit of money and gets someone that can bring that added value, then they can become a powerhouse in the MLS or in NCAA powerhouse. This is how I perceived it. So what kind of player do you need to reach that level, in your opinion? Like, do you need a Hani Mukhtar, or do you need a Victor Wanyama, like the prime Victor Wanyama? Like, what kind of player do you need?
I mean, ideally both, right? So go back to...
let's start with one, and then we'll see.
So I think right now, if I were looking for Montreal, well, some of it depends on what's going to happen with Joseph. If Joseph is back and he's healthy, then you probably have a 12 to 15 goal scorer there, and you maybe don't need to address that spot. But if he's not back, and we know that Joseph is combustible and whatever other descriptor you want to use, I don't.
You don't think he's gonna be back? Yeah, that's what our thoughts too. So we don't.
Sorry to cut you off, but I wanted to.
Yeah, no, it's but like you need at least one super high level attacker in this league if you're going to go anywhere. And Joseph was able to be that down the stretch, and you saw what happened.
Yeah,
and so if he's not coming back, then you probably need to address that number 9 slot. Like, I like Jules Anthony Vilsaint, I like Kwadwo Opoku, but like neither one of those guys seems like they're not going to go out and get you 15 goals. That's something. And then the other thing you have to think about is chance creation. And like Bryce Duke's a nice little player, but he's not that. And Dominik Yankov, he didn't really, for whatever reason, get to show much or was capable of showing much in his first year. So like there are some really critical player assessments that have to happen now, or have happened already, really, in that attacking trident. That is where I would focus. Like Saint-Pierre is not, Franz Beckenbauer, but he's good at what he does, and he provides a platform for Saliba to be good at what he does. So I'm not as concerned about central midfield. The attack is where something needs to happen, probably.
Yeah. So you talked about the 2022 season. I think everybody talks about it because that's the only time that CF Montreal actually did anything good in the past few years. But since then, Montreal hasn't really been able to hold on to a coach, or they recently let go of their sporting director. So there's been kind of a change of momentum, whether we wanted it or not, since that season. What would you say? I know you spoke about it a little bit earlier, but what would you say is the perception of the team around the league nowadays? With everything that comes out seems to be a story from Montreal.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just watching from the outside, when things are going well for Montreal, there's
I
always
love that. When things are going well. I love the when.
There's a perception that, like, okay, kind of you need to hold your breath because the other shoe is always about to drop. Like
He knows us so well.
Can we play the theme of The Bold and the Beautiful or something like that? You know, soap opera drama and stuff, right?
It really is. And like, there's a, you know, my good friend David Goss, who you guys have probably had on the show. If not, you absolutely should.
No, we didn't yet.
He's like a Montreal diehard. He loves it up there, and I remember even in 2022 when things were going so well, he was like, "Just wait, just wait. It's gonna." He knows. He knows. No.
Okay, well that pretty much tells us what the perception is around the league of us. So Montreal has sorry about that. Montreal has found a lot of success with inter MLS trades, even more so than acquisitions from overseas or South America. Is this viable for long-term success, or do you think that the league is headed a direction where bringing in players from other countries is mandatory to win? Messi.
Yeah, I mean,
there's other players and there's Messi, right? So like,
honestly, you need both. You need to be able to do both at a pretty good level, and that's one of the wonderful things about MLS is like you're never going to be able to go out and buy. Well, I don't want to say never, but you're unlikely to be able to go out and buy a completely new team and not have to worry about guys acquiring guys from within the league. And I think what we've seen is that you can be a team that emphasizes making shrewd acquisitions from within MLS and developing your academy players or your draft picks. Like you can use that to create a really solid base. And from there, it's just a question of when you do go out and try to sign that special player, do you get it right? Seattle Sounders are a great example, right? Seattle Sounders of the teams that are left in the MLS playoffs now. There's 8 as we're recording this. I think they have 3 times the amount of minutes as any other team left in the playoffs in terms of players that they've developed, guys who have come through their academy system, draft picks like Christian Roldan, guys who came through their MLS Next Pro team, like Georgie Manungu and Jackson Reagan. 3 times as many minutes, 3 times as many goals and assists as any other team gets from those types of players. I still doubt that they can win it because they don't have that high level difference maker. They went out and they tried to get him this past offseason in Pedro de la Vega, and the kid's got some talent, but he has not been a good soccer player this year. And if the Sounders fall short against LAFC this weekend, I think it'll be because they just missed on that. It's not because they concentrated too much on getting talent from within the league or from within their academy. It's because when they tried to go out and add that high level piece, they identified the wrong guy. Yeah, so my worry, let me just, I'll land the plane here, I promise.
Sorry. No, it's okay. Go ahead.
It's okay. Like, my worry is that sometimes when people see fans, especially when they see a team that has a lot of homegrowns or a lot of representation from within MLS, getting guys from within MLS, and they don't win, the fans say, you can't win with players like that. When the reality is you need the high-level players. It's not because you have homegrown players that you're falling short. It's because you don't have the high-level players, and it's not mutually exclusive. It's not one or the other. It's both.
That's the word from Ova. And then just sorry, to kind of add on to that, I wanted to know, is it true that the MLS requires an adaptation period from both South America and Europe whenever these except of course, if you're a Messi, you don't need adaptation anywhere, right? But you talked about the example of the Seattle Sounders and also, in Montreal, it's one of the things that we struggle. We want instant success when we have that big signing or instant success when somebody from Europe comes. We see, Dominic Jankov that you mentioned earlier, we expect them to score 20 goals right away. But is this theory that MLS needs a real adaptation from other places in the world true to you?
I mean, it is more true than not. there are guys who are outliers. Some guys you drop them right in, and they immediately, Messi being a great example. But think about when Nico Ladero came in 2016. The Sounders were bottom of the standings. They were literally in contention for the wooden spoon. They did not lose for the final 3 months of the season and went on to win MLS Cup, and he was by far the best player the back half of that season. Someone like Javinko comes and you drop him in, and he's immediately excellent. Flip side is Olivier Giroud, one of the most accomplished forwards of the past 15 years.
Mhm.
He stinks. He has not been good at all for LAFC. And this is a guy who has adapted across cultures, across clubs, across leagues, club play to international play. He has not missed a beat. You put him in MLS and LAFC, and he can't figure it out. So I mean, some guys get it, other guys don't. Personally, I think part of that goes back to what we were talking about 20 minutes ago, which is culture.
Yeah.
Teams that have a strong culture and a strong identity, both off the field and in terms of who they are in the locker room and what they want to do on the field, it becomes easier for a new player to fit into that because the expectations are so crystal clear. And I honestly think that Montreal didn't really have a ton of that this year when you look at changing the coach in winter, changing the manager or the general manager in the spring, and changing the game model kind of throughout. So it was kind of swimming upstream for Yankov and just about everybody else who came in this year.
Yeah, so culture, as you said, so hopefully we'll have one at one point. You talked a bit about the MLS Next Pro. Montreal doesn't have a team there. How bad is this, in your opinion?
I think long term it'll hurt. I think for now, they seem to have found ways to manage that lack. There are things you could do in terms of loaning out really good young players to either Canadian Premier League teams or USL teams. Like there are options, and I don't know Corey Ray personally, but I have a lot of friends who do, and they think he's a really sharp guy. So if he's the one calling the shots next year, I would expect some clever stuff to happen in line with the idea that the players that are coming through this academy system need to have a platform to develop, even and especially the ones who aren't going to get into the first team, so that you can go out and get professional minutes and sort of narrow the gap between playing youth ball and playing in an MLS first team.
Yeah, hopefully this will happen very, very soon. One last question before we let you go, Matt. With the recent rumor about a potential change of schedule within the MLS, would you say this would impact, no pun intended, CF Montreal in any way?
I mean, first of all, that pun was definitely intended. You got to own it when you think of a
I
pun
spent
like that.
3 hours working on that.
It was Andy's question, so
3 hours.
It's one of the realities of being in North America is that we have climate and altitude and turf in a way that Europe just doesn't. Everybody kind of thinks of either La Liga or the Premier League as like the default of what a soccer league is supposed to look like, and like you don't get the weather that we get here. So for the longest time, whenever I've heard anybody talk about changing the schedule, it's like you can't play in half our cities in February. And obviously Montreal are the big example of that. The flip side is like with global warming, you can't play in half our seriously, you can't play in half our cities in July. I don't know. Like 5-10 years ago, when people talked about changing the schedule, I would laugh in their faces. Now it doesn't seem as crazy, though. Obviously, with Montreal and Minnesota and Toronto, it would mean you're spending probably August through, early November playing like a ton of home games. And then the second half of let's assume the season runs from like late July to, the first weekend of December, and then it picks up in the first weekend of February. Like, you're spending a month on the road. And of course you guys already do that every year. So you have a sense of what it means, but like MLS executives have gone on record saying it's a 50-50 proposition right now. Wow. Or at least it's being looked at right now. I think what they've said is it's being looked at. I think the one that is off the record or anonymous was it's a 50-50 proposition. Wow. But like 10 years ago, I don't think it was even a consideration, but things have the climate has changed. So.
Yeah, it has evolved. It has evolved. We do have some rapid fire questions for you, okay?
All right,
we have to. Okay, rapid fire, no joker, so you have to answer. No choice, okay? Okay, so we'll start with a very simple one. Pasta or pizza?
That's
a simple one.
No, I'm both. I'm part Lebanese, part Italian. What do you want from me? Both.
Okay. Watching soccer or playing soccer?
Oh, watching. I'm a terrible athlete.
Learning French or Mandarin?
French.
Good. French. Okay, perfect. Writing The Armchair Analyst or streaming a podcast?
Streaming a podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doing a podcast, it's so much easier than writing. Writing is still the hardest goddamn thing in the world.
I agree. Okay, now a tough one. Maradona or Pelé?
I think it's Pelé. I think it's Pelé. Yeah.
Okay,
but it's
great.
tough.
And I think that's the easiest one. Andrew Vibia or David Gass?
Oh, none of the above. Are you kidding me?
No choice. You have to answer.
No, you got my answer on that one.
None of the above. That's funny.
Perfect. So, Matt, thank you very, very much for spending time with us. It was very, very interesting. We had a lot of fun. Thank you very much for being here on the Ball This Round.
Cheers, boys. It was good to talk.
Thank you.
Perfect. So that was our interview with Matt Doyle, the armchair analyst, the MLS pundit that we all like. As we said at the beginning of the interview, we don't always agree with him, but you know what? He's so interesting, very, very funny, and I was very happy to know that he was half Lebanese. So yeah, this is it. You okay, Andy?
Yeah.
My son came in a few minutes ago.
What the hell's happening today?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Let's talk. We do have a couple of questions that we got from our fans before the show. We'll answer them. First of all, from Normand, which players will remain unprotected in expansion draft? You need 3 players. That's all, unless we sign other players until the expansion draft. Don't forget, San Diego is the one coming to MLS next year. 3 players, if you have to choose right now that you will leave unprotected, Elias.
Oh, geez. Breza.
That's an easy one. Sorry.
Breza, Jabang, and oh, geez. Third one. Oh my god, I have a complete memory blank now. That's assuming Jabang resigns, but Breza, Jabang, and why can't I think of anybody now?
Do you want me to give you the names again of the people under contract? Okay, so you have Breza, Sirois, Alvarez, Bugay, Campbell, Marshall Ruddy, Pierce, Waterman, Biello, Clark, Duke. Yankov, Piet, Kokero, Opoku, Ibrahim, Saliba, Vilsan.
Vilsan probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my list.
Andy?
That's my identical list. Oh no, sorry. Breza, Kokaro, and Vilsan.
Kokaro.
I know. Yeah. For me, it's Breza, Kokero, and Yankov. The reason why is Kokero and Yankov, I think their salary is a bit too high and they didn't have a good season. So I don't think anyone is going to take, and I don't think San Diego is going to take a job at them. So that's my opinion. So, and if they do, then it's extra money that's being, freed up to get more, to get more players and better players. This is the way I would think about this. Next question. Will Joseph Martinez find a contract he desires in MLS, and will CF Montreal find their new Martinez replacement in MLS? Andy?
First one, no, because I think he's starting to gain a reputation around the league that is making him cheaper.
He scores goals.
Yeah, but at what cost?
Yeah.
Not just money-wise, what he does in the locker room and what he does in practice. And the second question was,
will we find a replacement within MLS?
I don't know if it's going to be within MLS. I don't think so, no.
Okay. Good. Elias, want to give your answer?
Yes, I do, because at the end of the day, teams will get Joseph Martinez if he makes himself available. And yes, I do think they will find an MLS. They can find MLS. And if I had my pick, it would be William Agada from Sporting KC. I've been interested in him for like 2 whole years now. I think he's a great fit, and I think he would fit so well with Caden Clark. And
for me, it's Darren Yappy and the Rapids, young kid.
Okay, interesting takes. Honestly, I don't think it's going to come from MLS, a replacement of Joseph Martinez. But I agree with you, Elias. I think that Joseph Martinez will find another club in MLS because he scores goals, and maybe not as a starter, but in a team that's pretty tough. Like, let's say LAFC next year, I see him as being a sub for LAFC, or being a sub for Seattle, or being a sub for Columbus. Those kinds of clubs that are pretty big. I see him getting a job there. So we'll see. So these are the 2 questions. Let's talk about our national teams. We're gonna go pretty fast. We'll talk first about the men's national team. So first of all, guys, we won against Suriname. I don't know why Andy calls it Suriname, but it's Suriname.
You have a problem with the way I say it?
I'm pretty sure
you say it, I'm like, why do
listen? Latinos called it that way in my family parties.
There you go.
Yeah, so we won 3-0. A very exciting game, I feel. How important is the score, Andy? The 3-0 from Canada against Suriname. How important it is?
Well, look, we spoke about it in the last podcast with Elias and Alex, and it was important because we need to win these games 3-0.
Yeah.
That we're expected to win 7-0, right? We need to start dominating. There can be doubts, and it was important in that sense. I think we really did what we were supposed to do, and we didn't leave any space for any doubts. So
yeah. And Elias, what did you think about the strategy of Jesse March? Playing away, and I put away because they played in the US. They played in Suriname, but like playing away with a rotated squad and then playing at home with the real squad. Do you like that strategy?
I don't think he thought too much of it, considering the opposition. Again, respectfully,
Yeah.
You can go there with a completely rotated squad, not a partially rotated one, and still win, or at least expect to win. So I don't think he thought too much of it. I think that he was cautious with the people that were returning from injury, which is what I wanted to see. And a lot of them still got minutes, besides Cornelius, and Samara Kubi. But seeing Taylor Buchanan get minutes, seeing people like that get involved, seeing Ryan Lebel and Nico Seeger get their starts, get their debuts. All very good stuff. That's what you want to see from games like this, where the win should be expected. It's how you go about your other business that I'm curious.
Yeah. I agree. Let's look at the semifinals that will be played in March. Canada, Mexico, in California, Inglewood. Guys, we talked a lot about Canada needing to win a trophy. And I'm not going to talk about this again, but what I want to talk about is the new position of Jonathan David, playing as a number 10 behind a striker. Elias, do you feel that, and he played so well against Suriname in that role, do you feel playing against Suriname, it's okay, but playing with against teams like Mexico, the US, or Panama, who are three very strong teams, do you think it's viable to see Jonathan David in that position?
Yes, 100%. Jonathan David's understanding of space is phenomenal, and that is what makes him world class, is his understanding of where the space is and where he can be most lethal. Now, it was more Jesse Marsh, the brunt of the coaching to get him to play more as a second striker, as a 10 instead of a poacher, is understanding more the patterns of play than anything else, because the natural instinct of a poacher and a second striker are not that different. It's about gravitating towards space that you find to be most dangerous. So in terms of from an instinctive point of view, you see it. He's always in the right spot. Now it's just about the execution. And that's what I'm happy that I'm seeing now. He's executing these plays. He's not just getting into dangerous spots and then, oh, well, at least he was there. No, he's actually now delivering assists. He's now scoring goals. He's now doing what is needed from in a more global capacity. And that's why this is such an impressive adjustment from Jesse Marsh, is that he recognized that and then deployed it so effectively.
Yeah, he looks like a Karim Benzema that can score goals, but at the same time can, make plays for others. And for me, Benzema was awesome for Real Madrid, and I feel that Jonathan David is becoming that awesome with the men's national team, which is really, really great. Now, rumors, linking him with Bayern Munich. Jonathan David, let's wait and see if that's going to happen. Andy, one last question for you. It seems like Jesse Marsh has decided on his starting 11 in a way in most of the positions. There's two positions that are not yet set in stone. The midfielder next to Steven Eustáquio, because Kone is not doing very well and Chouanière hasn't convinced yet, and that second center back next to
Bombito.
Usually sorry?
Next to Bombito?
Next to Bombito. It used to be Derek Cornelius. Now he's injured. Do you have an opinion on who should get those two positions?
For the midfield, I think we should give Conan more of a trial, more of a. But there are rumors that he might be struggling also on the club level. Yeah. So I think we need to give him.
It's not rumors. It's true.
Facts.
I watch all the games, so I can tell you it's true.
He's struggling not just on the field but outside the field. It seems that there's but that's nothing new. That's nothing new with him. But yeah, I think we need to give him a bigger run because he can literally change the game. As for the center back, I think we still need to give a few runs and give tries to other players. I don't have much of an opinion on the center backs, but I do like I do like competition. Kamal Miller played astounding, but so did Joel Waterman. I mean, whoever shows up, and they play well. So it's going to be a tough argument to define a one person, but they do have to do one by 2026. That's for sure.
Yeah, they need two center backs that are going to be their starters. So if they want to grow as a national team, so we'll see what's going to happen until March. Moving on, women's national team. We talked about it. You guys talked about it last week with Alex regarding the two friendlies that are coming up for the women's national team. The roster was just unveiled not too long ago, a couple of days ago. So we have Marie-Yasmine Alidou, Simi Awujo, Janine Becky, Gabrielle Carl, Sabrina D'Angelo, Jessie Fleming, Vanessa Gil, Julia Grosso, Geneva Hernandez-Gray, Ashley Lawrence, Adriana Leon, Janet Okeke, Nichelle Prince, Lisiane Prou, Emma Regan, Megan Reed, Jade Riviere, Deanne Rose, Nia Rose, Kaylin Sheridan, Olivia Smith, Evelyn Vian, and Shalina Zadorsky. How important is it, Andy, to get those young players early in the mix, to give them, a look during friendlies that are not very important, and to get them within the mix of the national team? Do you think that's clever from the coaching staff?
I think it's important, just as Matt Doyle mentioned in his interview about culture. Whoever you're bringing in, you gotta, the young ones, you gotta, break them into the culture that you're trying to build in the Canada women's national team by having some, some of the players that have been there for a bit, while mixing them up with some maybe younger players. I think it's crucial that they get those minutes, those games where they can see what the standard is, for these players if they aim to be, players that are going to be constantly called up.
Yeah. And at the same time, I know you guys were asked that question last week, Elias, but I want to hear you a bit more on that. Last time around, it was Katie Kohler and Diana Matheson that were leading that squad. Right now, you have Cindy Tai that's here. That's usually the head coach of the U20 national team. And with Tai, you're going to have Neil Wood, Katie Collard that's here, Jen Hurst, and Maryse Bard-Martel as an interim performance analyst. And Andy Spence is not available this time around. Like,
come on, Andy.
This is becoming a joke.
It is.
What do you think?
It is becoming a little bit frustrating. At least when the men's team were looking for a coach, you had Mauro Biello was the interim coach, right? Yeah. The circumstances under which John Priestman, love it. we found the Canada soccer coach. The circumstances under which John Herdman and Beth Priestman left were very different, but you had a definitive interim coach. So while they looked for someone, you had at least some level of consistency.
Yeah.
Now, and again, this is, Canada, the men's team was headed directly into national competition. The women's team has a bunch of friendlies, and the next scheduled national competition is still like a year and a half away. So I'm not as pressed for them to find some kind of consistency. I just want them to find a coach now, right? So whoever the interim is, as long as there's not too many complete massive changes in everything, I think that they have the right idea in terms of the defense and in the midfield. I just want to see different attempts to figure out the attacking problem. If that means bringing in different people every training camp to kind of try something new, I don't exactly hate that. So yeah, the consistency is a little bit weird, or the lack thereof is a little bit weird, but at the same time, you still have a massive problem up top. And if it means different perspectives every window until you find a proper coach, sure, screw it. What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah. Let's wait and see. I don't know. I feel that we need to have a definite head coach, very, very soon.
That's the first priority.
Absolutely. But we still have time. We still have time, right? Because there's no big competition coming up. So I understand that you want to make sure that you choose the right person for the job. By expecting in early 2025 to have a definite answer. That's going to be very, very important, going forward. So this is it for tonight for our episode of The Ball is Round. So we managed to keep it to 2 hours, 2 minutes. I hope you guys liked our content today. If you did like our content and want to help us grow the product, feel free to join our Patreon page, to become our Patreon, and to help us grow this and get it even better than what it is right now. This is it for tonight. See you next week for episode 206 of The Ball is Round.